The ones who have no interest in going straight and want to go back to the gang life, they're not showing up.
Right.
They get nothing to get up at 6:30 in the morning to take a train to a bus to get to a job at 8. But the ones who have woke up and said, this is not for me, and I'll do whatever I have to do to set my life straight will show up. So they self-select. So I think that the people that show up for these jobs recognize how important the job is, and they do a lot better. So I'm hoping that people will be more open to that, because I think that's one of the key triggers as to whether or not we will successfully sort of de-escalate violence, is whether we can take people out of prison and reintegrate them into society.
And if we could reach these kids, you know, at that age, when they're at the younger age, before they get to the adult court, it's clear if community people, business people would do something just as simple as, you know, sponsoring a baseball team, a soccer team, something like that, an after-school, you know, activity to keep these kids off the street and into something productive. Hopefully, if we get to them younger, we'll see less as you know, we go along into the adult world of criminality. So I think that it's a great program, and you're right, I don't believe a lot of people understand it or know about it or don't know all the aspects about it, particularly the parolee forums, which are quite effective. I attended one, and it really is effective, and it's something for the people who are going to be released to hear it straight from another, you know, convict, as opposed to just hearing a prosecutor lecture. So I think it's a great program, and your office does a great job, and we work together on that, and I think it's wonderful. As I said earlier, you know, everybody just associates your name with corruption, but through your career as an assistant U.S. attorney in New York, you handled all kinds of cases, and particularly some terrorism cases. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the cases that you've tried over the years, and maybe what was your most complex or interesting case that you had?
I think there's two cases that stuck in my mind when I was back in New York that were terrorism cases that I prosecuted. One was involving the person I referred to as the blind sheikh, Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman, who is a spiritual leader of an Egyptian terrorist group who's associated with the fellows who blew up the World Trade Center in 1993. And after the World Trade Center bombing, a different team prosecuted the 4 people caught for that bombing. But there was a follow-on plot to bomb the Holland and Lincoln tunnels, the United Nations building, the FBI building in New York, and to assassinate President Mubarak of Egypt when he was coming to visit, because Egypt had surrendered one of the bombers who had fled to Egypt. And there was a charge of seditious conspiracy, which is this crazy charge that fit. That came out of the Civil War era, which was to say anyone who combines and conspires to make war against the United States has committed a crime. And the reason we had to do that is the penalties for conspiring to blow up New York were limited by 5 years otherwise, because the statutes were sort of not the way they should be. They were fixed after that. And so the conspiracy involved the plot to bomb the World Trade Center and all those other landmarks. And it was my first exposure to seeing how terrorism investigations were done then, largely as an intelligence investigation walled off from a criminal investigation, where basically the FBI, for reasons of law, had to take a very conservative approach, and they'd make an arrest and then bring us in later. And that was a 9-month trial in front of an anonymous jury in New York, and I thought that was exhausting. And at the end of it, though, it was very, very interesting. And then later on, I was part of a team that investigated Osama bin Laden in New York with a group of other prosecutors and FBI agents in particular. And we returned the sealed indictment of him in 1998. And then the embassies were bombed in Nairobi, Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, simultaneously in August of 1998. And we deployed overseas. And for me, that was a very very educational experience on so many levels. To go into Kenya, where I'd never been before, to arrive with a team where the embassies were still smoldering. They were pulling out bodies from the smoldering embassies, some alive and some dead. And watching the Kenyan people respond, watching international teams respond, trying to figure out how to resolve the case between 2 legal systems. We went in assuming largely that it would be prosecuted in Kenya, and we would be there to help because we thought it was an al-Qaeda operation, which it turned out to be. And then I think partway through that process, while we were there, the U.S. carried out missile strikes in Afghanistan and the Sudan, and I think the Kenyan authorities recognized that this was much different than anything they've ever handled. So then we brought the case back to New York. We tried it in Manhattan. We had to deal with lots of issues of intelligence information that we used in court. So basically, people gathered information on behalf of intelligence agencies, and that was declassified and used in court. So the whole issues of foreign law, how we deal with intelligence, how we go after terrorism investigations, how we work with foreign partners, was amazing to me. But a lot of the education I received was actually from the victims, and it was a very, very personal experience to get to know the Kenyan victims who flew over to watch the trial, to speak to them after court with our team, to get a sense of how they appreciated what was going on. And so that to me was perhaps the case that most personally affected me.
And since you've been here in Chicago, you've tried, I'm aware of one case that you did try, but it was in Washington, correct?
Yes.
Do you think you're going to see yourself in the courtroom here?
I hope so. I hope to try a case. I almost tried a case that pled the day of trial back a few years ago when I first got here. And then I said, okay, well, now I have to get myself a Chicago trial. And then I tried the case in D.C. And then I've been looking for a trial for a while and trying to find the right one. And sometimes I say I'll just jump on a drug or gun case because that'll be important. And then I'm looking for it, and then there's something else going on in the office. So I'm looking for the right opportunity. But right now, there's some assistant U.S. attorney working in their office on some case, and they have no idea that suddenly the boss is going to be sitting next to them. So I have to find the right person that I don't ruin their day by sitting next to them. But I do want to try a case.
But do you miss being in court?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's really, being a trial attorney myself, it's something that you do miss once you get to the point where you're doing all the administrative work, which obviously has to be done. But there's something about being in court, isn't there?
As you know, I think as you're getting ready for court, all the butterflies, all the nervousness, all the things that can go wrong, and you're beating yourself up saying, well, I'm never doing this again, this is so awful, I'm getting no sleep, and then you're in court and there's a lot of stress, and you're like, I'll never do this again, and then it's over and you say, that was the greatest experience I ever had. So there's a lot of
and you're ready
excitement.
to pick the next jury, right?
Exactly. So I need to do that soon.
U.S. Attorney Fitzgerald, thanks for joining me here today. Your office continues to be an important watchdog for the people of the state of Illinois. I'm Anita Alvarez, and thank you for watching the Chicago Bar Association's Justice and Law Weekly.